Hello, welcome to week 2 of my vlog. What's going on today? So I have an early meeting at 10 o'clock. So that's why I'm like a little like ready to go, and I didn't show you my morning routine because I wanted to get it kind of going, and when you're vlogging yourself, it tends to kind of slow down you doing the other things that need to get done. So I'm gonna do that. Well, first I'm gonna have a quick breakfast. Then I'm going to have my meeting. And then what I thought would be actually pretty fun is to show you, we'll just talk a little bit about my writing process. So not only do I have like my business on the side, but I also like to dabble in writing horror stories. So, I mean, I literally just started. The idea came to me last year, 2024, when I went on this group trip to Costa Rica, and it was like a creative trip mainly for content creators. I was kind of dabbling in the art of content creator. I just really liked the influencer who was hosting it. And so I had an amazing time. I'm still friends with all the people there. Like literally, we were just chatting in the WhatsApp group just the other day, and I was asking what computers and laptops people are using, because unfortunately between literally last week and this week, my Google Pixelbook kicked the bucket. I don't know what happened. It just wouldn't turn on anymore. So what can you do? Now I am using just my husband's laptop. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like it. Like, it's just something about getting back to those Windows keys, and just my fingers are just they're so Microsoft. I have Windows fingers. So I don't know, we'll see. But I was like, you know what? This might just be kind of a low-key blessing in disguise, because my fingers are just kind of used to it. And honestly, I just did some basic editing of the last vlog on Clipchamp is what I just used. And honestly, it worked perfectly fine for me. So I don't know, we'll see. I'll keep you updated on how I start, changing and updating my tech and my gear and all that good stuff. But all that to say that today I am going to, actually, I don't even know how I got off that topic. Let me go back to what I was saying. My brain's moving a mile a minute. I wanted to show you a bit of my writing process. Okay, now I remember WhatsApp group. Okay, yes. So I got the idea on the trip to Costa Rica, and I've been kind of adding bits and pieces to my story ever since. And I just have like these periods where I feel inspired to write and periods where I kind of don't. Right now, I'm in this in-between space where I don't necessarily feel super inspired to write, but I do feel inspired to move my what I have written into a different area. So I'm thinking maybe if it's more front and center for me and more like in the same place with all the rest of my other work and all the rest of my other to-dos, then maybe just having it not hidden in this separate tool will be helpful. So for context, I started kind of writing it in Notion. Why I didn't just do Google Docs, I have no idea, but I just started doing it in Notion. I really liked how in Notion you can kind of insert pages within pages. I thought that was an interesting concept, because when I think about writing, mind you, I'm just a rando on the internet. I've never written anything before in my life. I have no idea what I'm doing. So this is just me and just my experience and how I've just kind of been intuitively doing it. Don't come for me. So I like to kind of write pages within pages. What happens is I'll feel inspired to write a scene, and the scene will kind of come to me randomly, and then I'll start writing it. But it's like disjointed. Like, I've written scenes at the beginning, middle, and all over the place for this story. And the subpages kind of help me to dig in deeper into aspects of it. So I find the subpages to be a cool way of helping me like world build a bit. So that's been fun. But I never use Notion for anything. Notion is just kind of there. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to transfer it all over to ClickUp, because ClickUp has this built-in kind of Word doc system. I could just do Google Drives just to keep it simple, but I really like the idea of having it in the same place as all of my other stuff for the day. So just in case I glance at it, maybe it'll trigger me to want to play in there, and then maybe that'll also spark some, just adding a little bit of detail, or kind of like adding in the color that isn't necessarily an entire inspired scene. I do like to use like ChatGPT for my research for different things. So yeah, I'll show you what I'm doing, and I'll take you along for that ride. But before all that happens, I need to eat and have this meeting. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I low-key feel like the floors in my house are uneven, but I don't know. Like I keep having to adjust the stand, but I'm going super easy today. Like I don't really feel like making eggs. Usually my go-to is eggs, but I don't really feel like it. So it's gonna be a really super microwaved breakfast today. I got Kodiak Protein Pink Power Waffles. I'll probably just have like a couple of these, and my go-to just kind of what I showed you in the last video. They're pretty decent turkey breakfast sausages. You know, typically I'd go for the eggs, but I am low-key running a little bit behind. So yeah, I kind of need to pick up the pace a little bit. Oh, all right. Let's see. He's me good? That was a spectacular meeting. Absolutely spectacular. If you're wondering why, I'm now in a completely different office because I'm using a different computer, and I guess I could have brought that computer down to the office I showed you in the last vlog, but I don't know. Sometimes I just go where the technology is. That's just where I'm at. But that meeting went phenomenally. I'm very, it was it was a good time. It was a good time. But right now, before I head into my plan for moving my story components into ClickUp, which I can show you and show you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I don't think it'll take too long. I honestly think I might have to do it through my phone, just because for some reason I was having trouble getting into Notion on the computer. But after that, I'm gonna run a few errands, tidy up a little bit in the kitchen, and also, since I'm in Notion anyways, I thought it might be a good idea to record some content for my business and kind of record a video of me sort of playing around in Notion, using some of the principles that I use to help my clients to get organized and use systems that work for them. So I thought that might be a fun thing to do today. And other than that, I think that's pretty much it. So we'll go ahead and get started. Right now, we're on my ClickUp docs page. So all of the documents I've created in ClickUp are listed right here. I haven't created much. The only big things would be like, so I have my pregnancy insurance plan, basically my plan of action for dealing with the crappy insurance that I had past tense. Now I have much better insurance, and I cannot wait. Not that I cannot wait to use it, but I am looking forward to a very smooth journey for the rest of this year until baby comes. I also have my 5-year strategic plan in there, which I should probably update at some point. It's already fall. I'll probably just wait till January. No, maybe not January, because I will be in the middle of the newborn trenches. Maybe March. When I'm done with my paternity leave, that is when I will dip back into that 5-year strategic plan and see how it feels. See if it still feels good or if it needs some adjustments. But now I want to start a new document that's going to house my story parts. Here we go. So it's very much set up super similar to how Notion is set up. Honestly, they give you lots of different options for what you want to add to this blank page. So many of the things in here will look very similar to what Notion offers. I'm telling you, all these tools are pretty much the same. But what I want to do differently this time around that I did not do when I first started trying to use Notion and creating my story is I want to start this first page as a table of contents, Now, the table of contents isn't going to be, it's going to be a messy table of contents just because I still don't have, I don't exactly know all the bits and pieces and parts or all the chapters of my story just yet. So this is very much going to be a living document. But how I want to do it is I want to put things that I generally know that will be in the beginning, things I generally know will be in the middle, and things I generally know will be at the end. I want them to live in at least some similar order to that. And then I can always rearrange it as I go. I can change things, delete things, all that good stuff. Some things are more of like my side research notes. They aren't actually going to go into the story. So what I had been doing was leaving comments on those little pieces where I wanted to remind myself to go back, to flesh things out, to do a little bit more research. So every type of writing tool has a comment feature. So I'll most likely just use that unless I see something different that's more exciting, but that's what I was using in Notion anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and start copying some of this stuff over, and we'll see where we go. Writing, from what I'm finding, is just not linear at all. Like, it's not, well, at least my experience has not been starting from the very beginning of the story and then just writing out the entire story as we go. It's been more like I get scenes, I get ideas for scenes and conversations and people that will pop up at random points in time. Some in the beginning, some in the middle, some in the end. The very first scene that I wrote, and it's a horror story. So the first scene that I wrote was basically the main character's first encounter with the monster. That was the very first scene that I wrote. It was the very first scene that came to me. How I got it was when I was in Costa Rica last year. I had a wonderful time, and all the different things that I saw and all the different potential things that could terrify me just morphed into this weird, like, monster type. And I had a dream about it, and it freaked me out in the dream. And then I thought to myself, maybe that is the story I want to write about this weird monster creature that I saw in my dream in Costa Rica. So that was literally the first scene that I wrote, was the main character's first encounter with the monster. But clearly that was not going to be at the beginning, right? So that's just an example of what I'm talking about when I say that I start wherever. Like, it's not linear at all for me how this story is developing, and I just come in at very different places, and then I flesh things out until I can flesh them out no further, and then I move on to the next idea, the next scene that comes to me. Right now, I'm in this stage or the season of I haven't had a lot of fresh scene ideas come to me. So as I was going through my comments and my notes, I realized that there are areas where I can actually like start fleshing things out a bit more and doing a little bit more research, and I can dive into that aspect of the detail of the story until I start getting more, we'll say, like, inspirational downloads about other specific scenes or any other characters. So how I've been deciding whether or not I want to add a subpage for doing additional research, or if I want to do just a comment to remind myself to come back to it later, is it depends on like how I guess the way to explain it is that for this, I'm thinking that what I'll probably do is maybe add like one line or two that just references where the main character works, and that's pretty much it. But say I was highlighting, for instance, something that needed a little bit more fleshing out, or maybe I wanted to create an entirely different scene based off of what I had encountered, and I want to make sure that scene is also included in the book, for instance, then that would also be a great reason to create a subpage, just so that I keep things kind of organized and there's less things to go back through. And so the general idea now that I have in my head, because I hadn't really like organized it before in this way, is that subpages I'll reserve for things that I want to like include in the story and maybe create scenes around or create conversations around something like that, and then I'll make sure it's included, and I'll just have to make sure I put it in where I want to put it in. Comments will be specifically for things I want to come back to, maybe things I want to remember to research, and so a lot of my research will happen inside of ChatGPT. But then once I've figured out what I want to say and how I want to say it, or what area I want to reference, for instance, then I'll remove the comment and just bring it back in, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling, but I also literally know nothing about writing, and this is just the process that has worked for me. One of the hardest things for me to come up with was the name for my main character. Like, I don't know if any of this is common, but I had written multiple scenes before I had even decided definitively on what I wanted her name to be. It was just so hard. Like, names of the other characters are coming to me, but I just could not for the life of me like solidify a name for the main character. Eventually it did come. All right, so that's it. That's all I'll show you for today with that.